Door left na more left?
Can I start? Very good morning to all of you. I said good morning. Thank you. I would like to thank all of you for the wonderful day we had yesterday. It was a very, very meaningful day. We had a lot of learning and sharing. Of course, we had a lot of fun too. Just to give you kind of a recap, we did yesterday was led by three of our eminent deans. That was followed by business education for a flourishing world. That panel, we had the advantage of four. We are going to look at sustainable community systems and peace. So this session actually helps us to see what should be our role to look at how do we connect to the world outside. So with these few words of introduction, now I would like to call on stage Dr. Nadaraja Manikam, who will be moderating the session. With the folder. Miss Rubina Sen, please come. And Mr. R. Ilango. I shall take a couple of minutes to introduce the distinguished panel members. I will start with the moderator, Professor Nadaraja Manikam. We fondly call him Nat, N-A-T. Currently, he is heading the Center for New Humanities and Compassion Studies in our university. That center has a very, very special purpose and a meaning with a very big mission. How do we look at compassion as part of our entire academic ecosystem? So, Professor Nat is heading that. He started his work life around the 1980s in the quarters of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and India, Chennai. Since then, he has worked over the last 40 odd years in many capacities and positions in many national and international organizations. His journey has taken him through a number of interconnected initiatives covering a wide range of areas: consumerism, environmentalism, media TED, realities, and critical media education, philanthropy, education, people-oriented design development, institution building, software development, process management, strategic planning, urbanism, agroecology, alternative healing practices, interfaith initiatives, and sustainability and spirituality. Any journals? So we welcome you, sir, and thank you for agreeing to moderate this important session. Thank you very much. We have with us another very, very interesting and of course very popular figure, that is Mr. Yelango. Of course, popularly we call him R. Yelango. R stands for Rangaswamy. I had an opportunity to listen to him in one of the workshops. He was a scientist to begin with, studied in village called Koothambakam in Tamil Nadu. That was kept poor for generations. At the age of boyhood, he was able to watch the menace of his village. He is a chemical engineer who was working with ONGC. He quit his job and decided to develop villages through reforming the Panchayat Raj system. The Koothambakam village in Tiruvallur district, Tamil Nadu, is an example of how, if rural economy is pushed and women and the youth of the villages empowered, India's rural map can be changed. From 2007 onwards, he is working for various panchayats. He is concentrating in establishing a village-based network growth economy model. He had been invited by countries like Italy. He is the managing trustee for the Trust for Village Self-Governance in that village where he is from, that is Koothambakam in Tamil Nadu. So thank you, sir, for agreeing to come for this discussion. The next speaker for this panel is Ms. Rubina Sen, a very young and dynamic person. Ms. Sen is working with the Global Reporting Initiative, all of you know that, GRI, for more than 7 years. In her current profile, she is responsible for managing the GRI South Asia network and mainstreaming sustainability reporting in the region. She is managing a project on sustainable trade and investment through reporting in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Before joining GRI, she had worked with United Nations Global Compact Network, India, that is GCNI. As a sustainability and a CSR professional, she has experience in training and research. Besides being a speaker in various sustainability and CSR events in India, she has also been a panelist in various fora in South Asia like Institute of Company Secretariats of India, BIMTech, IMT, Lucknow, Colombo Stock Exchange, Institute of Certified Management Accounts of Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka, CSR Center Bangladesh, SR Asia Bangladesh, as well as GRI South Asia Conference. She has also taken sessions for companies like ONGC, BHEL, SAIL, Tata Steel, Jindal Steel, and other companies. So with these few words, we welcome you once again, Ms. Sen. Thank you. So, over to Nat.
Is it working? Yeah, thank you. Reimagination, rethinking of business education, business management we can bring into the university, into Jesuit business school education, into business itself. What kind of Jesuit business? And I'm just given another extra 15 minutes. Let me just get on to the session that I'm to moderate. Well, this session is about sustainable community and peace. In some places it was sustainable community system and peace, but I'll just keep it to sustainable community and peace. So I would like the speakers, including me, just to keep to 3 areas, if possible, during the sharing and deliberation. One is, which comes first? Do we need a peaceful society, a non-violent society for sustainability to be possible, or the other way? Which is foundational, which is that which allows sustainability to grow, to nurture, or peace? I think we need to see the linkage between Given the present global context, climate situation, climate change, inequality, growing inequality in the world, in spite of all the effort we have done, all the UN meetings, all the other meetings we have had, the state of the world today is, as the UN described in the last IPCC meeting in Korea, we are in a global socio-eco emergency situation. Everything is is going towards the rate. Global boundaries, inequalities, war and destruction because of war, small arms sales is increasing like tremendously. So in a sense, there is so much of pain and suffering, a lot of death and destruction in the world today. Not that there are no good things, but this seems to be the way in which the world is moving, and that is this call to recognize the emergency we are in, emergency situation we are in. So in that context, how do we think about sustainable community? How do we think of peace? So we have to contextualize our discussion, whatever we are doing in that context of a global national situation. And the third one is, how does this deliberation, how will this deliberation help inform a better university curricula in terms of business education and business management? How will Jesuit business schools, Jesuit business organizations address this kind of difficulty that we are facing civilizationally? It's a global situation. How do we face that? So in the discussions on sustainable community and peace, not that you have to follow this, but if you can keep this in a context, then perhaps we can take home some of our deliberation in order to impact on our education and and the formation of young people in the university. Thank you. With that, I will call Rubina.
Thank you so much. So the topic is on sustainable community and peace. I'll just share my thoughts on it, and also from a GRI's perspective, what are the things we can really think upon. Antonio Guterres, he launched the UN disarmament agenda, in which he noted that total military spending was around, example, I feel that this is like the main or those who are suffering from inequality, but also the many people participation and youth engagement in this issue when we are talking about peace. So SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, all of you are came up with something called the Analysis of Goals and Targets, which is a publication which talks about how businesses can report on these issues, on their sustainable development goals and their impacts, plus also what are the actions that business can take to really accomplish the SDGs. So in terms of the SDGs, there are two SDGs that would be really important looking at the topic that we are discussing today. One is sustainable cities and communities. So in terms of sustainable cities and communities, there have been shared various actions that business can take, and one of them, which is really important, is how they are addressing the issue of respecting human rights of the people whom the businesses are having an impact on. So especially when we are talking about preventing adverse impact of displacement and avoiding forced eviction, especially in the businesses which are like in the extractive sector, this is like a major challenge, a major issue as well. Rehabilitation and resettlement, it has been discussed quite enough. But really, what are the actions that are being taken in this regard? We really need to think about those. Secondly, also the land acquisition and procurement of material, infrastructure, construction. There are various disclosures that GRI has in which businesses would need to report on how they are addressing all these issues, especially like what is their local community engagement, what are the programs that they are planning with their local community, how they are having an impact, how they are engaging with their local community as a stakeholder. So these are the kind of disclosures that any company reporting as per GRI would need to follow. Other than that, providing decent accommodation for those who are operating within the boundaries of the business, and creating a safe environment for all workers, irrespective of their gender or any other, without any kind of discrimination. And I wanted to take an example over here of one sector. So from the cosmetic industry, there was recently I came across this video that some minerals are used in the shimmers in the cosmetic industries. And this mineral the mica, is actually something which it has been shown in that video that child labor is used for extracting that kind of mica. And this is quite prevalent, but really, I mean, do we really need this at this hour is the big question. But these are the kind of impact that are being there, and not maybe directly, but even in the supply chains, business would need to go down the line and see where the impact is actually happening and work towards that. So this is also something which comes in the concept of boundary under GRI, where you just do not report on the immediate impacts, but also in terms of your suppliers, where you are having an impact. That too, if it is at risk, you would need to report on that. As well as natural disaster, and how any business or any operation that you are having that can also impact the business that and the community as well where they are operating. So having trainings, awareness on those lines to have a better and more sustainable community is another thing which has been discussed in this publication. In regards to the second point, the peace, so there is SDG goal, peace, social justice, and strong institutions, where mostly it talks about promoting peace through respect and support activities, and actually having that kind of dialogue with stakeholders, as I mentioned, your employees as well as your external stakeholders. And often this dialogue thing or having a conversation, it's always a challenge engaging with the stakeholders, both for the business as well as for the stakeholders. But when that becomes really smooth, we see that even in terms of disclosures and reporting, it comes out to be a very good report. And it actually helps in tracking where the risks are for the business, because when they are dialoguing, they would get more information regarding what are the areas they could work on, what are the targets they can have in place. So this also helps in resolving many of the conflicts which would otherwise go unresolved and actually can become a big issue for the company itself. So having good grievance mechanism, annually auditing and reporting, having a complete zero tolerance for corruption and bribery, and also engaging with different kind of international organizations, civil society organization, I think would be a very good way to kickstart such kind of conversations. And there are various examples of sustainable community, like in Pune, plastic, with the help of plastic, the roads have been made. I think such kind of examples more should come out. So from my end, I think these were few things I wanted to share from my perspective. Thank you.
Instead of summarizing it, I think you generally followed her drift and the impact of GRI. Let me just call Mr. Rangasamy to share his thoughts, and then we can discuss.
This is not coming here. Yeah, good morning to you all. As it was introduced, I'm a very small, humble, hardcore village level worker. I'm basically an engineer, first generation in all the aspects, from a backward village and a backward community. The life around me, the poverty, again, in India, the villages means, apart from poverty, the corruption, apart from that, the curse on of the village community is the caste. Seeing all the problems, of course, thanks to my father, somehow he was coping up and he was helping me to become an engineer. But more than becoming an engineer, then the problems around me was always pricking me how to find a solution for this. It's a caste issue, it's a poverty issue, small violence, corruption, political corruption, police, overaction of police and all these things. So when I grow, then I happen to become an engineer, then again I got a nice job as a scientist in high energy batteries for defense systems and all. But every time I find a thrill in invention, I find a thrill in seeing a marvel of science and technology. That weekend when I go back to my community, the backwardness of community, the problems in my community used to create, prick my soul often. Oh, this kind of thing is happening, this kind of thing is existing here, how to solve it, how to resolve it. That kind of, that fire was keep on growing. Interestingly, thanks to the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, who was contemplating to find solutions for all these things, like what was the reason for this kind of disparity? Yes, Parliament is planning, Planning Commission is planning, huge fund is going down, but why this is not happening? When that kind of thing happened, it was found 100 rupee was planned, only 19 rupee, 19% was reaching the grassroots. The problem was not only the corruption, this and that, the system was so complicated. Then it was found, let it come from the bottom-up approach. So empowering people, power to community, that was contemplated to come as a Panchayat Raj system. Unfortunately, he was assassinated after that. With long struggle, 73rd constitutional amendment came in. And in that time, I was really thinking, oh God, this nice system is going to come, a constitutional system, democratic system, powerful system, with a lot of modification, a lot of powers, a lot of finance. then who is going to make use of that in my community, in my village? That was a question again. So then I was doing the research, I was talking to communities when I went there, took a long leave for about 2 years, went there and stayed in the community and was equipping my panchayat people, my village people to adopt that 73rd Amendment. It became a compulsion for me to quit the job. I quit the job in 1996 when the first panchayat elections were announced. I quit the job, I contested in the panchayat election. I became the elected panchayat president of the panchayat, that village. So what I'm trying is, when we talk about the communities, yes, two ways. One is, as such communities are existing in India, that's villages, or we can make communities, even the towns. You can make a residents association, move around and create a community of residents association, flats association, scientists association. This kind of associating the people, you are able to organize the community. As far as me is concerned, more than other towns and other things, my own villages around me was the concern. So yes, in India, the villages are the community. The communities are very much existing in the villages. There are problems. There is caste, there is land owning, there is poverty, this kind of things are there, but still a strong community system is very much available in villages. And again, my own experience of seeing 75 years of India's freedom, about 14 5-year plan, 12 5-year plan, Finance Commission, so many World Bank, this and that, a lot of things came in or coming in, but impact is not that much. Yes, changes are happening. Roads are there, the small thatched school buildings have become concrete buildings and something like this, but still the complication is very much existing. For that, we can make use of the system available. A systemic change has to happen. For that, I found the panchayats, the village level governments. Interestingly, the panchayats are called not local governments, local self-governments, as per the Constitution of India. Local self-governments. Why self? People are there, resources are there, cow is there for milk, land is for the right, pond is there for water. Yes, human people are there to plow the land, seeds are there, cotton is there, weavers are there. Yes, lot of resources and human resources are there. So making use of that, the community can rebuild it. So that kind of potential is there. That's why I call, or we call Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi is called Swaraj. Real meaning of independency. It is possible to achieve by harnessing all the resources available in the villages. Again, 73rd Constitutional Amendment, it's legalizing it, it's constitutionalizing the power for the people to operate. Yes, we have to, in my own way, I thought, India is consisting about 70 to 75% or 70% at least villages, and interestingly, more than 276,000 panchayats, almost 250,000 panchayats are there, systems are there, democratic system, 5-year elections, people can make a change in that. So then why can't we make use of this and developing the panchayats as models? And again, economy, sustainability is very much possible, resources, human resources, everything is there. So for that purpose, I try to make my own villages a model. I can say in a cluster of about 30 panchayats, my village emerged as a nucleus village, a demonstrating village for this kind of sustainable development. Yes, it's a roti, kapda, makan, housing, cloth, and food. So these are the areas. If these are the areas are taken care for the village community, majority of their problems are finished. After that, maybe connectivity, there are other things, sustainability, all the things will automatically come. For that, I try to make my village as a model. We prepared a beautiful 5-year plan. It's a constitutional mandate of the panchayat. Every panchayat has to prepare a 5-year plan encompassing A to Z needs of all these things, including the sustainability. Then once 5-year plan is done, and you have got a beautiful system of Grama Sabha, that means all the voters, they come and sit in the Gram Sabha, your people's parliament. The village parliament is the panchayat, means people are coming, sit together. Once in 3 months at least, people can go through the whole plan exercise, analyze it, add it or veto it, all these things. People's participation is well established, very well there. Using that, the plan was addressed, discussed, and it was prioritized. What is the first year plan, second year plan, third year plan, like that. 5-year plan, systematically we started doing from 1996 to 2001. Almost we were able to facelift the village from one of the black spot village to a model village. So in 2002 again, I was re-elected. 2001 I was re-elected. Whatever left over, next 5-year plan, we finished. By 2006, this village became the model village. And interestingly, a candle is given in in the hands of the good soul. It will ignite or it will light more candles like that. I thought, when it is possible in Kutumbakam, in my own village, why not in other villages? Then we started networking panchayats. Now, this is an economy model we are trying, like networking 30 or 40 panchayats for a population of 130 to 150,000, and then meeting their local needs. It's an economy. Then, using the skill, using the resources, you can promote surplus. The surplus will go to the cities, and the city can compensate many things for that surplus. So this kind of sustainable economy model we are contemplating, and we are working out, we are developing. And again, being a scientist, I travel across the country to institutions, research institutions, universities, and take the technology, work with the communities and scientists and the professors, demystify the technology, and taking that as a core, understandable technology for the communities, so that community can make use of the technology and produce variety of things. So for that, again, technology. Yes, Mahatma Gandhi's meaning of technology is not complicating the whole thing. Rather, the machine, yes, need of the machine is needed, but it should not eradicate the opportunity for me to work. The machine must be there to easify my operations, easify my works, rather reducing the opportunity for me to work. So that way, sustainable technologies, appropriation of technologies, that was the need of the hour. Now we have developed variety of technology. There are a lot of institutions who are working on that appropriation of technologies. That's the need of the hour for the sustainable growth. Yes, when this kind of things happen, when one village, this is happening, there is a secure market in a cluster of this 30-40 village, because the market is the culprit, I can say. Market may be the whole thing, everybody talk, but thing is, market is the culprit. I, as a tomato grower, I'm growing tomato. The moment I pluck the tomato, the selling of my tomato is, when this is in the hands of the market, I'm out. Sometimes I get money, sometimes I may not get money. Whereas in the case of network growth of economy, the market is smaller. So I send this there, they send something to me, and we exchange. The surplus go to the nearest town. It is controllable. There's no speculation. There is no more space for speculation. That kind of thing, secure market, and empowered and confident village citizens. The people's interest is very clear. They come and sit, they come and clarify, and there is no confusion, that kind of things. Again, they participate. They participate in the whole, it may be an issue, or it may be development, it may be a joy. People are participating. Yes, when this kind of things happens, there is assured and sustainable employment, and food security, and collective entrepreneurship. Instead of one entrepreneur, instead of pushing something, it's called scaling up. People talk, the world talks about scaling up, whereas we are moving a concept called scaling out. This is not a scaling up model, it's a scaling out model, egg layer model. So collective entrepreneurship and energy conservation. Plenty of opportunity to conserve energy, reduce energy consumption, so that automatically the sustainability comes in. Yes, when this was conceived, demonstrated in one village,
then slowly the snowball effect comes. Well, when this is happening in Kuttambakam, why not in other villages? Why not in other villages? This is happening in a cluster, why not in other cluster? That kind of snowball effect, dissemination of knowledge. Here there is no bar of reserving something, preventing something. So it's all come, sit and learn, that kind of thing. Curtail urban migration. Say we talk about, you promote cities. I am honestly asking, as a humble man, Chennai is growing, no drop of water. Is it not shame to design a city where you don't have the water, but you are designing a city? So that kind of thing, urban migration. So it curtails, and again, energy saving, hunger-free villages, hunger-free communities, confident citizens. Yes, for that, we tried to create model panchayats, creating model panchayats, establishing model panchayat as an anchoring point, networking of 30-40 panchayat as sustainable economic zones rather than special economic zones. Yeah, when this kind of things happening, I am able to see in my own eyes, just by cycle, just by motorcycle, just by traveling. And 30-40 villages, we are able to see the joy of the people. We are able to see the sustainability among the community. We are able to green the communities, green the villages. Water, we are able to raise the water table of the communities, I mean the lakes and water bodies. So it's very much possible. So that's why anyone talks about sustainability for India-like countries, villages, village systems, panchayats, they are very much available. And for that, we are running a program called Panchayat Academy. This again, it's not a university, but a role model panchayats become the learning center for other interested panchayats. We invite panchayats to come and learn from that. This way it's going on. In Tamil Nadu, we have got a network of about 900 panchayats and creating them as small clusters, and it's going on well. Yes, so from this experiment, I feel that the system available in India is panchayat, local governments. In the villages, it may be panchayat. And for towns, yes, Bhubaneswar can be made as small wards are there, 10 wards, 15 wards, come together as a small cluster of wards we can do. And decentralization of power, and again I am carefully quoting, decentralization of economy as much possible. Wherever is possible, decentralize. Yes, petroleum refining can be a centralized one. Why a tomato ketchup could be a centralized one? Why a coconut oil extraction should be a centralized one? Yes, we are coconut growers. We run oil production. You make soap, you give soap, you make aloe vera, you make ginger. All these things can be possible in a decentralized manner. So economy, decentralize the economy as much possible is one of the way for bringing sustainability, energy, solar energy, all these things are possible in a smaller community. And if we work for 5 years, 10 years, or even 15 years, very much possible to re-establish a hut-free, hunger-free, green, sustainable world. This is what happening. It's a hands-on experience, growing in a big way. Hope is there before 2025. In Tamil Nadu, we are anchoring, we are aggressively working for establishing at least 2,000 self-reliant villages consisting of this kind of clusters. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is a difficult task of trying to, kind of summarize their contribution, their sharing, and then take this discussion of the panel. So I will not, this is already 10:15, so let me just keep it very short. In the first one, GRI, you can see, if you follow the discussions closely, there are two language that are operating here. One, you can see the GRI language of monitoring, so looking at compliance, looking at grievance management, and those kind of things, where you're looking at a reporting standard, you're looking at UN SDGs, and you see how to get people government organization to be compliant to a particular set of goals. So the language was more technical, and of course, there were terms like dialogue, but it was something about monitoring and keeping us close to what we have collectively put together as a goal, and therefore reaching this whole idea or the whole practice of leaving no one behind. So it was coming from a kind of top view. When Ilango presented, the language was completely different. And if you followed the language one of nurturing a local community, the words he used about self-management, self-growth, so these terms, a network economy, barter exchange, the way in which even the economy was thought out is quite different from possibly the way in which UN SDG has conceived for the economy. So you find that Ilango's discussion is coming from the grassroots. The language use is different. The terms used are different. I can go into that, but I think it will take this time. But what I'm trying to say is that how can we use these two set of languages, two sets of understanding our situation in order to further the discussions on sustainable community and peace, okay? And how then finally that can be, that can inform Jesuit business education or Jesuit business formations. So I think I will stop at that. Very brief reflection on what was shared. I have something to share with you quickly. I won't take, since I'm also supposed to be a presenter. I started off by suggesting that we need to look at the foundational notions to think about sustainable community or to think about peace or to think about dialogue. So since now I am in this university trying to set up the Center for New Humanities and Compassion Studies, let me start from there. Of how this university is addressing certain issues in a broad sense. So I'm looking at compassion. Compassion studies, sometimes people ask, what is this compassion studies? What is compassion in the first place? How do you study compassion? So I won't go too much into technical, but I just want to relate it back to the idea of compassion, idea of sustainability and peace. Compassion is essentially about caring other directedness, both local and global. It is the ability to feel for the other and to act for the other's well-being while fully realizing that what is happening to the other is also something that can happen to oneself. It is an imaginative, mindful other-directedness. That is, you dethrone self and place the other. And when I say here the other, it is just not human beings. The other is human beings, other sentient beings, and all of creation. Okay, the whole universe, when you separate a self and the other. But in this context, I'm talking really about the human world. So that is what the idea of compassion, minimum, it's a huge, there's a huge literature on this discussion on compassion, but this is the minimum idea that I'm presenting to you. So now, how do we bring peace and sustainability? The nurturing other-directedness of compassion positions three critical states of our social being and existence. One is dialogue, the other is peace, and the third one is sustainability. So I think the foundational emotion, the foundational principle is compassion. And on this compassion is based, or this leads to the idea of dialogue, because you can't have compassion if we do not work on the idea of equality and discuss and engage, which is an important principle of a sustainable community. The ability to discuss, the ability to involve civic engagement through participation. So the foundational idea is compassion. So peace, to take the first one, I'll just keep dialogue aside. Dialogue is another big, huge discussion. I'll just discuss peace and sustainability and stop my sharing. Peace is about non-violent coexistence of self and the other. More elaborately, in peace, the self and the other live in a situation more than just absence of war and violence. Do not just live in the absence of conflict with their ability to manage conflict constructively as an important activity for change and increased understanding. Second one. Third, engage in a commitment to understanding, celebrating, and learning from their differences. And the fourth, engage in a commitment not to harm, but also to nurture each other. So, with this relationship, within this relationship is hidden the compassionate foundation, the caring other directedness of self-other. So, if this foundational emotion, this foundational principle of compassion is not there as a guide, peace is not possible, because peace comes out of this, whether we explicitly talk about it, explicitly articulate it, but that is a foundational principle, foundational emotion. This is my own observation. I think all of you must have heard of this book. This is an encyclical called Laudato Si. Now, I think the foundational basis of that book is compassion. The fact that the Pope could address the world through that encyclical, I think it's based on the idea, based on this emotion, is compassionate to the world. I think like that you have many books which actually is based on this idea of compassion. Second one is sustainability, just a quick one. Sustainability is when self and the other co-design and co-create a caring, non-violent world that nurtures generations of self-other along with the other associated sentient beings. What Yelango shared, which is a kind of co-designed, co-created world in which people are sharing, people are in dialogue and sharing and creating a non-violent world. So sustainability is basically that reality coming out from a compassionate self-other relationship. Okay, so to answer my first question was that the foundational thing for peace, sustainability, or dialogue is compassion. And that has to be articulated now strongly within even the UN SDGs. Second is let me go to the second. The third one, how is a business school to respond? Xavier University has responded to this whole rethinking management, rethinking business education by centering the whole idea of compassion, which is basically to see how do we redefine our relationship with the other, whether it is with the other human being, with other animals, plants, or with the planet. Little time, but we can have about 10 to 15 minutes of, some sharing, some questions, queries. 10 minutes. We just have 10 minutes.
In my view, sustainability should precede peace. That the scarce resources of this earth are not meant to satisfy the greed of a few people, politically, financially, educationally, or caste-wise strong, but to meet the needs of all people, irrespective of their economic or social status. If this awareness is there, then there will be better sustainable development. We all remember the first confrontation between the creator and the creature in the conversation between God and Cain. After killing Abel, Cain comes and God asked him, "Where is your brother?" And his answer was, "Am I my brother's keeper?" All of us know that. So if we have this awareness that we are all the keepers of our brothers and sisters, our development will be sustainable and there will be peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you keep your sharing short and brief because we have very little time. So share what you need to, but keep it short.
Thanks to the panel for sharing your thoughts. Mr. Lango, especially I want to just thank you for going back. A lot of people sort of migrate to the cities but then forget their roots and where they come from, and so I think it's very clear that you're a son of the soil and you take your commitment to your hometown village very seriously, so thank you for that. The question I have is essentially, when you go back from the city to your hometown, the village, what are some of the cultural barriers and the resistances you might have faced? I'm assuming there might be some thinking that, okay, here's somebody from the village, went to the city, now educated, and coming back with these city ideas into the village and trying to sort of lead us and tell us what to do. And I understand, obviously, Tamil Nadu, in the rural areas, there might be stronger cultural barriers. So could you maybe just talk about those barriers and how you actually overcame them or built coalitions working with people?
It's again a very usual question. I mean, but question is that if anyone from outside, you want to go and influence the community, it's